not exactly the routine you want, but really not the end of the world given that he didn't fall and he was able to bring it back and mostly hit the dismount.
I
Usually
was
you want
curious
that to
to
be a C, but
see I was curious to see if he would end up redoing his dismount because I think there could have been some question to whether or not there would be given credit, and based on this weight that we're waiting for with Chris on floor, I am curious. I'm just wanting to see did he end up going back to try that dismount again?
yeah, and the benefit to that can be, that would have been the dismount he did was likely not the difficulty that he was going for. So with no pirouettes and handstand, he's looking at I don't remember exactly the entry, but either a B or a C dismount, which now doubly downgrades with the change to the code of points with the dismount group being dependent on the skill level of the dismount. So if he does redo it, he'll do the higher dismount, get some difficulty points back, even if they do count the fall for him having to get back up.
Yeah, and for those tuning in who are looking to learn more about these changes to the new code of points as we are in a new Olympic cycle, exactly as Zane mentioned. So previously, if you did a dismount to fulfill an element group, it would automatically give you a point 0.5 added to your score. Now, the difficulty of the dismount is also the amount of points that you will receive for that element group. So the more difficult dismount is going to give you a lot more bonus. Oh, wow. Look at that. Speaking of connection bonus.
Great start for Simpson on floor at 12.55. It's not going to be their highest score on floor, hopefully, but it's definitely where you want to be beginning on your first event. Great hit from Tristan, and definitely right to put him up first.
I'm interested that he is tumbling in like little shoes or socks. Is this something that you ever experimented with during your career?
I never did. It was something that kind of fell out of fashion right as I was getting up to the age when I would be looking at that. So I never tried them, but I did know some guys who used the shoes, and yeah, I don't know. I can't say what they do. I mean, I know they give you more grip, but it's interesting to see people still using them. It's definitely been a minute since I've seen anyone wearing them. Seem to be working
Dismounted
though.
dismounted there with a double pike, so that has been upgraded for this code of points. It's now a D.
So it looks like Ricky definitely wants to bet on some difficulty there. 3-3 is probably not where he wanted to be starting, where he expected to start. 10.6 is going to be a low for him, but they'll be looking for Jared Neumann to bring it back. Um, Jared's been fairly consistent on horse so far this year, so not a bad second up if you're the tribe.
Doing lots of work in flares here, and actually, again, another change to the code of points is the limit to how many skills on pommel horse can be done in flare. He was able to get up easily into that dismount. Really well done.
Great routine from Jared. So Jared hit a high of 12.8 on horse in his last meet. Don't know that we'll see that here today. Totally depends on what the judging is like, but that should be above his average, I think, and definitely a great comeback for William and Mary. Next up on floor, we have Milo Staley for Simpson. Milo's competed on floor for Simpson for the first time in their last meet on February 15th. Hit an 11.9, which is certainly respectable. Definitely wanting to get a little bit higher, especially if they're hoping to contend with the tribe on floor. Um, but so far so good for Simpson, and they'll be looking to continue that.
Yeah, definitely. He's an all-arounder and one of the leaders of the team. Simpson has probably the youngest team overall out of any of the teams in NCAA. No academic seniors on their team. Again, they're just in their third season. And he is from Ann Arbor, Michigan, but came in and immediately made an impact for the Storm.
And a great score from Christopher Duane. Basically a 13. The 12.95 is again right where they want to be if they're looking to upset the Tribe at home. Great start
Inside
from
double
Milo.
pass there.
Moving quickly through the routine. Something that you've seen a lot now is with the reduction in the time. People are moving quickly in order to get those 8 skills that they need to fill out a full routine.
You can see him there while he's doing his scale. He's spotting a place on the side of the wall to keep his focus, and that's a really great tip to help people be able to keep and maintain balance while having to do that scale.
Yeah, it's not something that I ever had to learn how to do, and I'm definitely grateful for that because I don't think I would have had a great scale. But they look good.
Mark Fu coming up third here for the Tribe. Scissors were a little bit low. Ideally, we want to see that heel kick up above shoulder height, but he's showing off his flexibility here in the flares.
Mark's got a really fun routine. Has struggled in the past with consistency, but seems to have really figured it out this year. I mean, he's been a really big contributor for the Tribe, one of their top guys, and there he goes again with a really, really great hit set.
Seems very excited about this one.
He's got a big personality, Mark, and that'll rile up the team. I mean, that's exactly what you need to start, especially when you're on a weaker event, definitely your weakest. That's what you want to see for if you're William and Mary.
And going back and forth between the floor and pommel horse, especially when you have teams who are pretty well evenly matched, do you prefer the head-to-head format or do you prefer the traditional format?
It's a great question. I think I prefer the traditional format as, I guess, really just as a way to kind of you get your team consolidated. You're all just together on one event. You don't have the distraction of another team going in between you and the guy in front of you and the guy behind you and your own team. As a gymnast, for me, I definitely prefer the traditional. I think the move towards the head-to-head has been interesting, especially for viewership. It gives a better sense of how teams are performing against one another. And so I definitely see the advantages to it as they're trying to grow the sport and grow the popularity of the sport nation and worldwide.
Jake Smith
Beautiful
is
set.
here up on floor.
It looks like Milo may have suffered from a little bit of a shaky landing on that dismount, but otherwise a pretty respectable score, especially starting at a 14-1.
One of the things I've noticed overall about Simpson's floor is they lack a little bit of energy coming into their corner transitions, and I think that's one of the things that really makes an athlete stand out on floor is not simply just stepping and turning to go a new direction, but really putting energy into those transitions.
Definitely, and I think that as they try to add a little bit more of the artistic element back to men's gymnastics, I mean, we see that with the addition of the required scale. I think that'll be something that they're looking to increase the importance of. Wow, beautiful stick from Jake Smith on that double pike, though.
And we'll get a point 0.1 bonus for that added into his D score. I did just mention I would like to see a little bit more energy in those corner transitions, and we did get a hop full turn from Jake, so that was actually very exciting to see.
Yeah,
Moving on to Gavin Zabrowski. He actually comes from my neck of the woods. He competed for 5280 in the Denver area, and he was the all-around floor and pommel horse champion at the 2023 Colorado State Championships.
yeah. Gavin comes from a really reputable gym out there, 5280. We've had a couple of guys on the team from there. Most notably to me is Cutter, who still lives out there. But man, there's just a line that 5280 produces that you don't really see from many other gyms, and Gavin shows that off perfectly in this pommel horse routine. Great finish from Gavin there. Love to see the Russian dismount. It's not really that common anymore. It's a little bit riskier. If you fall on that, it's harder to mask. You just have to redo it. Whereas on the handstand dismount, sometimes if you're shaky, you can go off to the side on one side or the other, and it'll still count. But when it's done well, it's a really beautiful dismount. So great job to Gavin there.
It looks like Simpson is putting up a 5th athlete. The current format is 4 up, 4 count, but they are allowed to put up athletes if they are competing in the all-around and maybe they don't want that score to count for the team, or if they want an exhibition, there are some different options for the athletes to compete.
And a huge score for Simpson from Jake Smith. That's putting them in a really good position to start this meet. That's good for their highest 4 score of the year, beating out their previous high of a 51.2 on January 24th. So really great start, and now Alex Campbell will get to compete for his all-around score.
Oh, kicks out of that double tuck nicely. Just a small hop on that dismount, but overall a nice routine.
Absolutely. And while those routines don't count for a score towards the team score, they are really almost as important as the other routines that do count, because they really help with the momentum of the team. When you have a routine so when you have a routine that goes up that you hit really well, even if it's an all-around, that could be a really big contributing factor to your momentum. The flip side of that is, as Luke Tully's helping me illustrate, sometimes when that routine isn't great, that can bring you down. Although the nice thing about those all-around routines is that because they don't count towards the team score, it's easy to just brush them off and say, all right, it is what it is. As long as Luke Tully is able to get back up on his next event and compete like the team needs them to, then they'll be able to kind of ignore that in there, as they move on to the next event.
We did see a little bit of a, as Ollie Hogbin would say, an unintentional dismount from Tully there. And gymnastics is nothing but comical at times, and that was one of those moments. I have often thought about, how interesting it would be if we saw dismounts come from the back in sort of breakdance fashion. We've seen some of those from pommel horse legend Steven Edorosik as well.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be a backflip dismount that one of our assistant coaches, Pete Walker, for William and Mary, who was a gymnast at William and Mary a long time ago, and he used a big backflip off of the pommel horse dismount. I still don't understand how people did that or what the mechanics of that were. I kind of wish they would to put that back in the code of points just to see people do it again, because that's got to be just really fun to watch. But
Absolutely. And as we close out the first rotation here, Simpson is leading William and Mary with a 51-3 on floor exercise over William and Mary's 47-9.
yeah, really great start for Simpson, and really not a bad start for William and Mary either. It's not really well reflected in this format because of the difference in scoring in floor and pommel horse. You always expect to get a higher score on floor than you do on pommel horse, particularly when you're these two teams for whom floor is a stronger event than horse. So for William and Mary, that's good for their second highest pommel horse score of the year. If they do want to compete for that 12th spot to get into NCAAs as a team, they'll definitely need to continue to work on that score. That the pommel horse is really what's dragging them down in the standings. But good start to the meet for both teams.
William and Mary are moving to one of their better events, floor exercise, where they have broken the top 10. They're number 9. Simpson is headed to pommel horse, where they are ranked number 15. So we're probably going to see a switch in the order of the teams, or at least see that gap come a little bit closer together.
Yeah, it's very difficult to tell how a team is doing against another team in a double duel or a double header like this, in a head-to-head when they're on different events, because it's the scoring just changes so much, and when there isn't a direct comparison, when they're not on the same event, it's difficult to get a sense for who's on top until you have done those first two. So it'll be interesting to see here how these scores compare to the other team on their first event.
Of this upcoming floor lineup, who are you most looking forward to see?
That's a great question. I think for William and Mary, Luke Tully's been really notable on their floor lineup. He's got some really fun, big skills. Scores some really, really big scores as well. His high was last meet at a 13.6, but is consistently at or above that 13 mark, which kind of gives it's a good point on floor, where if you're above that, you're starting to be at the top of the lineup with William and Mary's. So that'll be really exciting.
It does look like Nico Greenlee has gotten started here on floor exercise.
Yeah, so Nico is a also a staple in William Mary's lineup. Has only competed on 4 of the last 2 meets, but has done pretty well in both of those meets. A good guy to start on, nice and consistent, nice and clean. So they'll be looking for a good start to one of their stronger events from Nico.
Oh, hitch kick. I love that. I'll say bonus points to Nico for artistry. A hitch kick into a scale just got. Oh no. Oh no, his foot.
Oh, uh-oh. Looks
It
like we
looks like
might have
it
had
rolled
a
under.
good on Nico for finishing the routine, saluting the judge. Hopefully that was scarier than it was painful, but he's walking it off, so that looks like maybe
Hopefully
just
just a
a
sting.
yeah rough end to a really good routine. Otherwise, sometimes you just get unlucky with that. You know, your foot bounces in a funny way, and that's happened to every gymnast I know at the most inopportune times. So now it'll be on next up for William and Mary to kind of look past that ending to Nico's routine, focus on what they can do, and bring back the tribe back to being on top. Got Ethan Drake up on Hummels for Simpson.
We weren't able to see his entire routine, but I would say by that reaction, he feels that that was a hit routine.
Yeah, and his team seems to agree. Sometimes that matters more than the actual score is, the team's perception of the score. It might be, you know, it could be frustrating when you feel like you hit a routine and then you score worse than you expect. But as long as the team feels and knows that you went out there and performed to the best of your ability, then that can be huge for the rest of the meet.
I saw some of the William and Mary athletes over here on the side of floor practicing their scales, which I found really amusing. Oftentimes when you see athletes on the side of the floor, they're practicing for their hardest skill or they're doing visualization through those hard skills, and to see someone say like, okay, the scale is what I'm going to focus on um, is interesting and both amusing to me as well.
Yeah, I think so for these guys, they grew up not really having to do scales. They fell pretty hard out of fashion for a couple of decades. I don't think I ever competed a scale, and they would have been the same for them until the rule change to the code of points this most recent quadrennial. So for a lot of these guys, this year would be the first time they're competing a scale in their life. Definitely would have been the hardest skill in my floor routine if they made that change when I was still in college. So I totally get it.
Beautiful split for Connor. Looks like he's getting ready for that V press.
Connor's another one of those guys to watch on William and Mary. He's a classic floor and vault guy. Hit a huge 13.75 in his last meet. Same meet where he stuck that 2.5 on vault. There's that scale to avoid that neutral deduction.
What's interesting is I won't say a lot, several athletes in the NCAA they are taking the scale out completely, getting that 3/10 neutral deduction because they feel like they're getting more deductions from doing the scale than just from taking it out completely.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting trade-offs that you have to make as an athlete and as a coach. Kind of building a routine for an athlete is you got to look at those first few meets and think about, okay, are we, is it worth it to do this scale to avoid that 3/10? Or should you just not worry about it, move on, accept the 3/10 and focus on other parts of your routine? Great hit for Simpson there. Definitely where they want to be as they're trying to take down the William Mary tribe. So Nico Greenlee with a 12.85, which is a little higher actually than I would expect. I wonder if they took into account the fact that he was out of bounds before he really fell, gave him some step deductions into neutral, and then, uh, considering that the rest of his routine was quite clean, made up for it there. But um, all things considered, not a bad start for the tribe. Connor Barrow hits his routine, a little hop at the end of that dismount, but otherwise, not too bad for them on floor so far.
Up next, we have Luke Tully.
These last two routines on floor are heavy hitters. We got Luke Tully and then Evan Wilkins, and both of them are big contributors for the tribe on floor and in general. So,
as you mentioned, a freshman from the team, came in as a really strong all-arounder. He actually had placed third at nationals in 2022 and then fourth in 2024. Comes from a long history of athletes. His father was a D1 athlete playing baseball for Liberty University, and
really big, really difficult start for Luke Tully. Great landings, couple of hops here and there, but overall, a good routine so far. Great save on that landing. That can be a really difficult pass, the double full punch lay. If that lays a little low, you can land up right on your butt, and he saves that beautifully. It's like
his
William
line
Mary's.
is beautiful. Just a
Oh yeah,
really strong, powerful, clean gymnast to watch.
I know if I'm William Mary, I'm going back into the gym and doing a video review on those double back dismount landings. All three guys from William Mary so far have had really, really strong starts to the routine and then hopped out of that landing in a way that doesn't really put a great cap on the routine. So definitely something to look for their next meet is them having worked on that back in the gym.
Alex Catchpole of Simpson. He actually has qualified previously for the National Collegiate Men's Gymnastics Championships on pommel horse and parallel bars. So one of his stronger events. I wouldn't say that routine that we just saw is representative of his best work. He had some pretty big form breaks, but is overall one of their strongest workers there.
Connor Barrow hitting a really strong 13.05. That's good to bring William Mary pretty close to back, right behind Simpson. You see these, their floor scores are definitely, there's outscoring Simpson quite a bit on floor, but the few mistakes they make on pommel horse might cost them later on if Simpson's able to capitalize and hit all of those sets. Watch for Evan Wilkins' first pass. This is a really big one.
And get a tenth of bonus for that connection there, that front full to double front.
And then the laid out double flipping, half in, half out. That's a really impressive pass by itself, and to do it second after sticking the front full punch double front is it's one of the hardest floor routines we've had in recent memory from William & Mary.
Been a standard historically in the floor lineup. He is mainly focusing on rings and pommel horse. Ooh, head was a little low on that connection there. But he is overall doing a stellar job, absolutely has the power to compete with some of the best.
Evan Wilkins hit a huge 14.2 at his last meet on floor. Definitely won't be quite there on this one with that low landing on his second to last pass, but I'd expect a low to mid 13, and that'll put William & Mary right where they want to be on floor to compete with Simpson. I will say for William & Mary, as they're trying to beat out one of the top teams in the standings for that 12th spot, whether it's Army or Greenville, they're really looking. They need to be looking to outdo their previous bests. It won't be enough to just take down Simpson. They need to really shine on these last four, so that they can add a good score to their national qualifying average in order to make it to NCAAs as a team. Alex Catchpole has been a staple for Simpson on pommel horse. Hit a huge 12.85 on his first routine. Hasn't quite captured that success since then, but so far so good for Simpson on pommel horse, and hopefully wrapping it up with a really solid set from Alex.
Quite a successful routine. We didn't see a lot of hip skew on that Magyar Savato that we so often see from athletes on pommel horse, and was able to fly pretty easily up into that dismount. Would love to see just a little bit more attention to pointed toes, but overall an extremely successful routine for them.
Yeah, no question. That's a good cap on their pommel horse lineup, at least for the guys who are competing for a team score. They'll still have Alex Campbell to go to get a routine for his all-around score. But sounds like they're already celebrating a well-rounded pommel horse lineup.
You got it, Sue. Confident here. Let's go, Sue. Take your time up there. Be confident. You got it, Sue.
Yeah, 12-7 for Alex Catchpole. Wow.
That's a huge score for them.
Don't change it. Let's go.
Confident in yourself. You got this. Trust yourself.
In fact, that is going to be the highest pommel horse score of the meet.
Come on.
That's great look for them. It just misses out on their top pommel horse score of the year, which would be a 46.75, but a huge improvement on their previous meet, up by over 4 points. So right back up to kind of where you expect them to be on pommel horse in that mid 46 region. They'll be definitely looking to improve on that in their second half of their season, but really good showing from Simpson on pommel horse and on floor for that matter.
That's really what I'd say about Simpson overall as a whole, right? They're an extremely young team. They don't have any seniors. They're just in their third season. But what repeatedly impresses me about them is how much Colin Payne is able to get out of them and grow them each season, right? as I said at the top of the hour, from year 1 to year 2, that 14-point growth. And this is what you see week in and week out from them, is that they continue to get better each week.
Yeah, no question. I mean, that's, you have a rough week now and then. It seems like their last meet maybe didn't go how they wanted to, but to come back a couple weeks later and hit a strong first 2 events, really within striking distance of William and Mary as they go into the final 4 events of the meet. This is a really good place for Simpson, and they got to be really happy with these 2 events. William and Mary on the flip side, definitely trying to stay over that 300 mark. They haven't always been able to get there, but they need to stay on top of that if they want to compete with the rest of the NCAA for a spot in that finals. In NCAAs.
Based on the first 2 rotations, we have our first 2 event winners. So Luke Tully of William & Mary is going to take the floor title, and Alex Catchpole of Simpson is going to take the pommel horse title. We are headed back next up to still rings and vault. I think the thing I'm most excited for in rotation 3, it has to be Connor Barra's vault. Can he repeat that stick on the Yurchenko 2.5?
I mean, even if the great thing about that Yurchenko entry vault is, even if he doesn't stick it, as long as it's a good landing, he's going to score well. What you see a lot with the Kazamatsu and Sukahara entry vaults is the leg separation as they go over the table in that round off fashion. With the Yurchenko, going over the table in a back handspring means that your legs are much easier to keep together. And so you're able to, with that Yurchenko entry, just kind of almost guaranteed score a couple tenths higher than any corresponding vault entering in a round off fashion. So Connor Barrow can hit some really huge scores. We saw that last week with that 14.5 with the stick. And even if he doesn't stick, it's a really good guy to have on your vault lineup for William & Mary. Really wraps that lineup up well.
You see that William & Mary is only putting up the required 4 athletes to compete. And again, we see Simpson putting up 5. And I think that this is a strategy from Coach Payne to ensure that as many of his athletes as possible are getting experience in competition in front of the judges and getting that needed feedback to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like they have both Milo and Alex Campbell doing all around for them. And so the requirement there is that they just have to be able to, they can't put up more than 1 athlete per event, I believe, beyond their 4 that are competing for a score. And so as long as one of them is competing in that top 4 for a team score, they can put up 2 athletes for all around and get 2 guys getting an all around score, which so far they've done really well. So going into this rings and vault lineup, this is going to be where Simpson needs to at least keep up with William & Mary. I wouldn't expect them to make up any ground. William & Mary's sitting at 8th in both rings and vault in the NCAA, which is significantly higher than their overall 13th. So if Simpson can keep up or not fall too far behind, they definitely have a chance to take the meet from William & Mary. William & Mary, of course, will be looking to these 2 events to really, reset any lost momentum in the first 2, although I'll say I think floor helped them offset any disappointment from pommel horse, but to extend that lead over Simpson and get a good start to the rest of the meet.
Looks like Braxton Jones is going to be starting us off here on still rings. He is a freshman. He's a 2-time Junior Elite National finalist, 4-time National Development finalist, Elite Cup qualifier, and a state champion in the all-around.
Classic start from Braxton with that front uprise L. Not a skill you see people do very well. It's a really good way to get that swing to strength requirement that you need to get the 510s for that element group, but it can be done really poorly, and certainly not by Braxton. That's a really great start for his set, and so far a good routine for them.
Finds the stick on that landing. Well done. Not the most difficulty you will see, but executed well in the landing.
No question. I mean, that's really on rings. You can build a lot of your lineup based on just consistent hit sets that don't get too much off. You don't need too much difficulty in order to do well in rings.
Good direction on that cause full or Luke double, however you choose to name that vault there.
Ricky's got a really good start for their vault. He's one of those few people I know. I just mentioned how the cause or the Souk entry can get you some built-in deductions, but Ricky somehow manages to avoid those, and just has a really clean entry, a really clean vault overall. Good start for both teams as they enter the second 2 events.
I do have to admit, I really like rotations that have vault in it because they move so much faster than some of the other ones.
Yeah, no question. As a gymnast, as a judge, it could be fun to have that vault built in because he bang through routines. I will say is if you're on rings, and your other team's on vault, you do end up waiting around quite a bit instead of getting distracted with other routines. So that is maybe a downside, but yeah, this will go by a little quicker than the floor and pommel horse rotation.
I haven't talked a ton about the new format change, that 4 up, 4 count, and I think one of the concerns and reasons why they moved to this format was to help with budgets for the NCAA teams, to help with the time limit, really trying to make sure that they can keep gymnastics meets within this 2-hour time frame. I know you competed under the 5 up, 5 count system. Tell me your opinion. Do you like this? Do you not like it? Or what are the pros and cons that you see of this system?
I was a little hesitant when they first announced it. I think, I competed really back when they had the first half of the season was 6 up, 5 count. So you got an extra score similar to how they do in women's NCAA. And then the second half of the season was 5 up, 5 count, but you always had an extra guy doing all around or something. Those meets run long. I mean, 2.5, sometimes 3 hours, even for just a dual meet is that's a lot of time. So definitely, I think it's a net positive. It definitely decreases the range of routines you get. Only seeing the top of a team's lineup means that there are fewer opportunities for some guys to compete who might not be in that top 4. I can tell you that I would not have competed in college if there were only the top 4 on my team. So wouldn't have been good for me then. But I think on the net, it's a positive. And I'm hoping that we'll see more additions back to the NCAA, like Simpson and Greenville 3 years ago. And that'll give us the opportunity to see that.
Stanley coming up here on vault. Oh, beautiful entry into the vault. Oh my goodness, almost no pre-flight at all.
Sam Lee's just been a huge contributor. It's disappointing to not see him on some of those other events that we know he can contribute on due to, I believe, injury right now. But man, can he vault! Um, and just a huge 2.5.
I know he was completely out of screen when he landed. We can't actually even say, did he take a hop? Was it a big hop? Did he go out of bounds?
The only
So
thing we
much
could,
power.
yeah, I think we could say from the reaction that the team's happy with it, and that's good for them. I mean, so when I was on the team, having a 2.5 in the lineup was a big deal. There were many years where we didn't, only a couple that we did. Now they have 2.5 vaults, 2.5 twisting vaults. One with the Kaz entry and one with the Yurchenko entry, and this is a big vault team. They've really stepped up their game in the last year or so.
Not quite sure while we're still on the vault camera. Something happened over on still rings or...
Yeah, it looked like they were moving that camera, so we might be... There we go. We got Connor Jenkins up for Simpson. Caught him just in time. So you see from those first two routines, not very high difficulty, but regardless, some pretty solid scores to start your rings lineup. Particularly from Ethan Drake, only getting a point off in execution is, that's a really good way to start. And definitely what Simpson's going to need to keep up with William and Mary as they get these second two events going.
You can see him sort of shake his head at the dismount there. The previous two athletes, Jones and Drake, stuck that exact same dismount, and you knew he was looking for that stick, but ended up taking about a 3/10 step back.
Sometimes it's when you're looking for it the hardest that you're just bound to miss it. So still a great set from him, though. Good job. Huge dismount, too. I think he should be looking to upgrade that. Add an extra twist.
Nice Yurchenko double from Tully, and from Connor we'll see an extra half twist on that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see how much cleaner Yurchenkos usually are when you start with Rick and Sam doing those round off entry vaults, because they're both just so clean over the table. I don't think that is necessarily representative of how those vaults usually look. Ricky and Sam are remarkably clean. So still, though, having two Yurchenko entry vaults is a really good way to set your lineup up for success. Even if they do have poor landings, which so far they haven't, they're bound to get a higher score. So I think we'll see a really good score for Luke, and probably an even better score from Connor.
Kind of a long wait from Connor Jenkins to get his score there, which means Alex Campbell is having to wait for a long time before mounting. What is going through your head as an athlete when you're just waiting for the score to pipe up? You're just trying to stay in the zone. You're trying to keep warm.
I think every athlete's a bit different. For me, there were always a couple uh, like choke points in my routine that I really had to focus on going in. So a couple of points um, where I had to think, okay, uh, keep your legs together on this skill, or look at the floor to spot this particular landing. And I would just run through those like a mantra. It was just I wouldn't let myself get distracted, or try not to. It can be difficult when everyone's cheering like they are. But it's definitely not easy. Doesn't seem to have phased Alex. He's got a great start. Really difficult strength in this routine so far.
A lot of strength, maybe not as much gas as was needed for that dismount. Was just a little low, kicking out, big step forward. But as you mentioned, starting off with that planche, by far the most difficulty that we had seen so far from Simpson.
Definitely. Maybe won't be the ring score they want in order to keep up with Tribe in the second two, but certainly not a bad showing, and I'm sure they'll look to build on it on vault.
And here's that vault that we've been hyping the entire competition thus far.
Looks like he was going for that stick.
He really was. Great direction, but just was a little slow on rotation. And ended up, we'll take a point fall for that.
Yeah, that could be tough, but at the same time, when you put up those vaults that have the higher difficulty, part of the calculus is that you can afford to take a little bit more risk. They don't need to be as perfect on the landing in order to get a really good contributing score. So, uh, clean entry, clean in the air. I anticipate we'll still see a pretty decent score for Connor despite the fall. Um, Last up, we got Milo Staley competing for his all-around score for Simpson. So far, great showings for both Alex and Milo in the all-around. I know Luke totally struggled on horse a little bit, so if they continue to have a good meet, it looks like Simpson might be taking those top two all-around spots for the meet.
Okay, score for Alex Campbell just came up at 12.35, so just a little over 2 points in deductions there, but by far the most difficulty that we have seen from any of the Simpson athletes.
Yeah, those strength elements, the planche, the Maltese, they make a huge difference in that difficulty. It's really difficult to get over a 4.0 without at least one of those more difficult skills. That'll be good for a 49.1 for Simpson on rings.
Push, push.
Great fight from Milo.
It's 60% stick rate for the Storm.
That's I mean, and that's right about where you want to be on rings, especially when you're competing that double back with the full twist, colloquially the half half. Uh, it's one of those dismounts where you can spot the ground for quite a while you while you end when you kind of kick out early and trying to find that stick. So really great finishes for all those routines. Um, Not quite where they want to be, I think, on their ring score. They have been super consistent on rings. Simpson, that'll be a little bit lower than any of their previous scores, but overall not bad for them.
Yeah, and they're headed to vault, which is often for many teams the highest scoring event. It's an event that they have a superstar on, Braxton Jones. So hopefully they'll be able to close that gap right now. After 3 rotations, William and Mary is at a 154.550, with Simpson being at a 147.150. And really, vault is the time to equalize the scores before heading into parallel bars and high bar, because there's some big skills coming up for the tribe on parallel bars particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be, I mean, I think we're at the same point as we are after that first event where it's just difficult to tell how two teams are stacked up against one another. Vault being such a high, so much, just a much higher scoring event than really any other event in the six, but definitely higher than rings. So I expect we'll see that gap close as we get through this fourth event.
For rings, what should we be watching for from William and Mary?
So William and Mary they had a tough start to this year on rings. They couldn't break 51. They actually went down and down and down the first 4 meets. Couldn't get higher than the previous meet, culminating in a low 47 for them, which is just not where you want to be on rings if you're competing to get to NCAAs. And then their previous meet 2 weeks ago, they hit a huge 53. So what they're going to be trying to do is replicate that success from 2 weeks ago and show off that they can be a solid rings team with a lot of strength and a lot of really well rounded routines, both getting that strength and those swing elements, and then some really difficult dismounts to cap them off.
And they really are in the middle of the pack when we talk about the NCAA in general. They're ranked 8th on still rings, 8th on vault. So they're coming into 2 of their strongest events here, and I think should feel a lot of momentum. And if you look at the team right now, they're just jiving and dancing, and Bo is looking at them like, who are these crazy kids that I'm coaching?
Yeah, I mean, even with that was a solid vault rotation. Obviously, a little disappointing to have a fall in your last vault, but you can't be disappointed. You expect at some point in the season your 2.5 guys are they're gonna fall. They're gonna get a lower score, and really a good showing for them so far. They're definitely gonna look to build on that on rings. Simpson's had some really great success on vault as well. Like you said, so they got a 1 star, but just generally some really good consistency. Never below a 53.15, never above a 53.9. I'll bet they'll be looking to break that 54 mark on vault. That would be a big deal for them.
I do wonder if they're in the audience, if they're playing games or providing external information. I think that this is one of the hardest parts about keeping interest up in gymnastics is, after 6 times throughout the meet, there are just these lulls where there's nothing really going on. And so I wonder, are they teaching people about men's gymnastics or playing games in the audience? Was there anything special that they ever did at William and Mary to keep the audience engaged?
Um, we definitely we experimented a little bit while I was there. They've done a lot better recently. As an alum, it's been just a great time to go back to games. Oh, looks like we're
Off
peeling off
there?
of rings. That looks like it might be a torn grip.
Yeah, hopefully there's a second pair with him.
That's always one of the scariest things to happen to you on rings. Looks like he's all right though. Yeah. So I think we used to do t-shirt tosses when we stuck at the end of every event. Anyone who stuck a dismount got to throw a t-shirt into the crowd. And recently, William and Mary have added a section where you can actually go get an alcoholic beverage and watch the meet, which has been a really great time as an alumni because we never used to have that as a team, and so just makes watching the meet a little more fun. You got everyone, all your old teammates there, and you're having a beer. It's
To
pretty
increase the
fun.
heckling.
I would say it increases the cheering. We were never really a heckling team. Well, that might not be true. We used to have a really fierce rivalry with Navy, and we definitely weren't always cheering for them. But I would say recently, gymnastics is all very supportive. Teams, even when they're competing against one another, tend to be pretty supportive. So.
Like the idea of having, if you stick the dismount, you throw a t-shirt into the crowd. I think that's a great way to increase crowd engagement for sure.
Yeah, it was fun, I will say. I know it's something that pretty much all sports do, so it was and it's a perfect thing for gymnastics because the stick is such an easily recognizable win. For anyone, even people who've never watched gymnastics before know what a stick is. So, great way to get audience engagement.
Wow. Beautiful.
Really great start for William Mary on rings. That's exactly where they want to be going into the final half of this meet.
Nice pop off the top there. Good air. We did see a lot more pre-flight deduction. So when you're going from the springboard to the table, that's split. But he actually had quite a lot of height, just a little bit off of direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what you more expect to see on that round off entry, but all things considered, a pretty clean vault. And then in terms of, the direction of it,
Come on, Nico. This is yours. You know how.
you definitely,
Is that the same athlete that broke
I
his
think
grip in?
I think Nico just tore 2 grips. I think that's the second grip he tore. So that'll be, I'm not sure how they deal with that, to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. Looks like he's going to try Connor's grips.
I have never seen that happen in 10 years of covering gymnastics.
I mean, I've torn half a dozen grips. I don't think I've ever torn one in competition. I've definitely torn one on competition floors, but um,
Sure.
two in the same meet is just like that's unheard of. Glad he's still all right. I mean, that could be really that could be really strenuous on the especially on the arm that doesn't get torn off of the rings when your grip tears. And usually when an athlete has an equipment malfunction like that, particularly a grip tear, um, judges it can be up to a judge's discretion, but generally they'll give them a chance to do the warm up turn that they were in the middle of to get back up, test their new grips. Um, they're not as kind in international competitions, but they're definitely trying to err on the side of caution and athlete safety. Looks like those grips are going to work with him. That's a pretty big double-double for Nico, and hopefully he'll be that successful in competition.
It looks like they were just giving him a delayed warm-up since his grip broke earlier in warm-ups, and they needed to get started with the competition.
Come on, Gavin, let's go! Come on, Gavin! Let's go, G!
So again, we'll see, some of those really clean 52-80 lines from Gavin here.
There we go, push!
Really impressive start. The Hamna cross is one of those that, when it's done well, it looks so easy, but man, is that a hard skill to do well, and Gavin just kills it.
There we go, squeeze! Yeah, baby! Nice.
Doing a great job holding these handstands. The rings really aren't moving that much. He's hitting the handstand positions well, not a lot of arching.
Yeah, one of those things that huge dismount for Gavin. I mean, the double-double is that's a tough dismount to hit right, and he hits it beautifully. Definitely harder to stick than the half in, half out, but the increase in difficulty usually makes that worth it. But yeah, like you were saying, the handstand, one of the things you notice as gymnasts go from freshmen to sophomores is their handstands get much cleaner. And freshmen to seniors, and Gavin's one of those few sophomores that hits a handstand that you don't really see from sophomores. Just a really clean gymnast overall.
Go food! Go Foodini!
So one of the things we see from vault is we saw it with Luke Tully on vault, and then for Simpson, the little red dot next to someone who's gone, their name, indicates the neutral deduction. And that's what those lines on the vault landing matter for. If you step or touch outside of those lines, you get a neutral deduction, which is really just to indicate to a judge that you didn't go straight over the vault table when you should have.
Again, I have to say the rings judging has been extremely slow for this competition. And I think that this is one of the frustrations a lot of viewers have and a lot of coaches and athletes have with like these long waits and keeping the momentum going. And I would really like to see if maybe this could be the time to judge these routines could be condensed a little bit.
Yeah, rings is one of those events where, having been a judge, it can be. There are definitely events where it can be tough to stay on top of how quick you're judging and making sure you're moving meet along. But rings is not really one of those events where you expect that, because it moves slower. You have a lot more time to kind of take your notes as a routine goes. You don't need to like look back on it after the routine's finished. So and there's a good reason why it's paired with vault, which is obviously the quickest event. So hopefully they can step it up a little bit. It's tough to have to wait, especially on rings where you warm your shoulders up and you don't want them to get cold.
Zarian cross. I love that skill. Wow, look at the positions, just his shoulders, even with those bottom rings.
And that's another one of those skills that you can do it. A lot of guys I've seen have been able to do it, but haven't been able to really do it well. And Mark Fu's not one of those guys. I mean, that was a just technically perfect Azarian. Just the right amount of bounce into it, not too much strength, not too much swing. So you can see why he starts his routine off with that, because it definitely sets a good tone.
That line and the toe point. Just a the perfect balance between beauty and strength. Like that is what men's artistic gymnastics should be made up of.
Absolutely. Huge set from Mark Fu. And, that's the third, or I think, that's third big set for him. I'm remembering correctly. But that's, either way, that's exactly what you need for William & Mary. Great save on that landing. That could have gone really poorly, and he gets that just right. Limiting that to one step is a big deal.
He was pulling in very hard to try and make that vault all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, that shows a really impressive air awareness for him. That's, it could be really tough mid-air to make those adjustments. A lot of guys don't, they rely on that final spot of the landing to know where they are. And, being able to make that mid-air adjustment shows that's a good vaulter.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Nico is the one who is, we think, using Connor's grips.
I think so. I thought I saw him get handed a pair of grips by Connor off the camera after he tore his grips for the second time of the day, which is remarkable. So let's hope he doesn't go 3 for 3 and can hit this set. I don't think I've ever had to use a teammate's grips beyond maybe doing a couple of swings on him. So I can't tell you what that's like.
I think it would be so incredibly nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I mean, your grips are so perfectly conformed to your hand after, at least months, but usually, or at least weeks, usually months of usage. And presumably Nico and Connor don't have identical hands. So good on him for getting up and adapting. I mean, that's all you can do is don't think about it, I guess.
Let's go, baby. Swing with confidence. You can do it. Nothing different. Come on, Nico. You know how. Let's go. Come on, Green. Let's go, Nico.
A little
did
shaky
well.
on that.
Yeah, I was going to say he did well to remember to hold that planche because he did come down and then he went back up and he needed to hold it another 2 seconds, which has got to be exhausting.
Yeah, that's a tough skill to have a rough entry on. So looks like he may have downgraded that set a little bit, which was absolutely the right move if he was missing his own grips, because that still is a solid hit. You know, I way better to just scale it back a little bit, finish strong, do what you can. You know, circumstances aren't great, but good on him for still turning that into a successful routine.
Okay. Here's this other vault that we've been hyping. All meet. Braxton Jones currently leading the ECAC.
Braxton Jones will look to get over a 14 to beat Sam Lee on the event and take the vault title for Simpson of this meet.
If I had my pulse guess, I would say that Sam Lee has probably got that. I think Braxton's was just a little less clean in the air, but we'll wait and see if the judges agree.
Yeah, it looked like it might have been a similar landing to Sam, but man, is Sam clean going in that entry. So guess we'll have to see when the score comes out.
I would be interested to see if we could come up with a cheer for the Simpson Storm of getting ready to do vault. You know, with OU, they have that OU, and Michigan has something, and I saw the Tribe, you know, you have your increasing clap, and I feel like the Storm needs to do something with, I don't know, creating a storm before they hit the springboard.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, I mean, I think we stole that clap from Michigan, but they seem to love it, and honestly, the crowd loves it too, so why not? I'm sure Simpson can. They should come up with something for sure. So we got Luke Tully competing for his all-around score. He'll be looking to make up for his fallen pommel horse and come back and maybe take that all-around title. But see how his rings goes. Starting out strong, getting that Yamawaki combo in there, which is a staple of swinging rings guys who don't have strength. I mean, that was one of those things that I always had to do as a non-strength oriented rings gymnast. So good to see Luke doing it well and hitting that dismount beautifully.
The score for Braxton Jones came in a 14, which I believe ties Sam Lee's score. There will be a tie for that vault title.
Really huge rings lineup for William & Mary. I mean, that 52 is, it's not good for their high, but it's right where they want to be if they're competing. They want to compete for that 12th spot to go to NCAAs. Similarly, great vault showing for Simpson. Looks like they struggled a little bit with those neutral deductions, going out of bounds a little bit more than they want to be. But yeah, I mean, they're not far from keeping up with the Tribe, and 6 points behind is you can make that up in 2 events. So it'll be good to see where they're going into this last few events.
If you are just now joining us, we are heading to the 5th rotation of this meet between Simpson, who is the host team, and William and Mary. William and Mary is currently in the lead after 4 rotations with a 206.7 compared to Simpson's 200.750. Simpson is headed over to parallel bars, and William and Mary is headed to high bar. Zane, what can we expect from William and Mary on high bar?
So William and Mary has struggled a bit with consistency on high bar. They kind of been up and down. They can score as high as a high 50, close to a 51. But a couple of falls and they're down in the 48s. They have some big release move skills. I think some Kovacs, some big Tkachevs that make for a really fun high bar lineup, and really an exciting team to watch on high bar. But yeah, we'll just be looking for them to stay on the bar, really.
The little bit down the line, but I'll go ahead and tease up that I got a tip that we might see a crazy dismount from Sam Lee on parallel bars. A double back with a full out, valued at a G. So we'll sort of tease that up for the end of competition as things to look forward to.
Not a dismount you see very often in the world, much less in the NCAA. I can only think of one other time I've seen it in the NCAA. No, that's not true. I think Akash used to do that once in a while.
Yeah.
But that was a while ago, and that's an Olympian. So, but I know William and Mary was at a meet at Springfield, where one of their guys did a full twisting double back, and it was, just an incredible thing to see. It is so cool. So to have someone on William and Mary doing it that's cool. And also for Sam Lee, Sam hasn't competed anything except for vault so far this year. So to see him back on an event that he is incredibly strong on, besides just that dismount, that's good. And that's really good news for William and Mary as they look to the second half of the season to build a really strong qualifying average.
Absolutely. Here we go, getting started with the 2 events where the chalk does fly. I know as a member of the media, they often place us by parallel bars and high bar by the time we leave the meet. Our computers and clothing are completely covered in chalk, so I can only imagine what it's like being an athlete.
I never really thought about that. Yeah, it gets everywhere, but as a gymnast, you don't even think about it. It's just it's just integral to the sport and to life while you're on a team like this. But man, I'll bet that messes with some of the electronics of the media nearby.
It absolutely does. And, they want you to be in like all black or dark colors, so you're not being a distraction. And sure enough, that chalk shows up from head to toe.
Yeah, I've been, back when I was on the team and competing, I know if you've had a particularly parallel bars and high bar or rings heavy day, you could go shower and there'll be chalk on you for days after. It's it is everywhere. So one of those things that you don't really think about until after you leave the sport, and then some people love the fact that it's not there, and others miss it, and they do like adult gymnastics or they join a climbing gym. Looks like we're starting Simpson on parallel bars. I know Ricky will be starting on high bar for the tribe. Ricky's one of those guys that you put first up because you know he's going to hit. You know that pommel horse routine at the start of the meet was such a fluke because he's such a consistent gymnast. Um, he's one of those guys that the way he does high bar defies logic. He's a big guy for a gymnast, 6 feet tall, and he just moves on that bar like it's nothing. But first up, we got William Backus for Simpson.
One of the things I think people who never did gymnastics, they can't really appreciate is actually how high those bars are. I remember the first time I ever saw an athlete pop up to the bars, I thought, oh, that's so easy. And then I went and stood under the parallel bars and I'm like, these are like 6 feet high. And I could not jump up and get onto them as easily as he did. And I saw this thought of when people do high level sport at the Olympics or in the NCAA, you should have a regular person next to them just showing how difficult it is. And I think for a lot of people, they really couldn't jump up there.
Yeah, it's you really don't think about it until it's hard to see how high those things are for sure. It's also hard to visualize how scary it is to do a skill like we just saw William doing like a Diamondov 6 feet up in the air. So a little bit of a bobble there early from William, but a really great finish with that double pike. They'll look to come back from that strong. Simpson will on parallel bars. You look to see some really high flying release moves from Ricky. He just has some immense power in this event.
Nice Coleman. A little bit of a leg split as he went to regrasp the bar. Zoli men. I love that skill.
One of the coolest skills on high bar for sure. A double dismount. Seeing a lot more of those with the rule changes, and I like that. It started to get tiring. Everyone doing a full twisting double A dismount on high bars. So cool to see people upgrading.
No, in a way, it feels like gymnastics has taken a page out of the playbook of figure skating, where if you do harder skills in the second half of the routine, it counts for more. And that's sort of what they've done here is they're now saying if your dismount is more difficult, you're going to get kind of doubly more points for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting move. I think that in concert with reducing the number of skills that you need to do to make a routine from 10 to 8 is particularly good. You don't really want people getting to the end of the routine and trying their hardest skill after doing more and more skills in that routine. So reducing that number and while making the dismount more important is I think a really interesting and good move by Fig. Great fight for that peach from Alex. Definitely get a deduction on the strength there, but saving that means that you get credit for the skill, which would be a much higher deduction to his routine overall.
Great job finding the landing, and you saw the coach throw up that lime green flag there to indicate that yes, he is going to get that .1 bonus added into his
One at a
D
time.
score.
Hey, just like in the gym, baby. Just like in the gym. Let's go. Hey, you know what to do.
I like when we have the camera near where the team is cheering. You get to see or get to hear some of the ways that your teammates encourage you as you compete, which can be fun and usually PG.
Let's go. Put it up. Put it up. Yes. Yes, Jay. Yes.
A little low on those angles, but two deceivingly difficult skills to start Jared's routine. He's definitely looking for difficulty on those in-bar skills, which is not always common, especially at this level of NCAA gymnastics. But so far a good showing for him.
Really high release on the full twisting double layout. Little slow on rotation, which is why you saw it be so deep. But of course, at the end of the routine, it's just so tiring, and he'll just take a little bit of a deduction for that step.
Yeah, otherwise a clean routine, and everywhere except for, I would say, those angles are definitely going to hit him. If you're not super experienced at watching high bar, this might be a lower score than you expect, because it does look really clean, but when you're coming out of a lot of those skills and you're 30 degrees off of handstand, that can be a 3/10 deduction, and if you do that a couple of times, that really adds up. So great routine for sure, definitely a hit. Maybe not the score that he'll want, but otherwise, a hit's a hit, and they'll be happy with that.
Let's go, Ev. Let's go, Sweden. Come on, Wilkins. Come on.
I think we might have our rings judges on parallel bars now.
I was just going to say, I think this meet is running about 45 minutes behind. So something definitely to look forward to, of having quick, efficient, and correct judging.
Ain't nothing new, baby. Let's go. Let's go, Ev. Hey, get nasty with it. Go, Evan. Come on, Ev. Let's go, Jake.
Maybe they should make speed judging an actual sport,
Take your time, Ev.
like
Yeah.
like speed coding, Like speed
Yeah,
judging.
right. Not a bad idea. You bring that to the National Judges Association. They're I know they can be resistant to change, but maybe that'll do it. Really difficult start here. Those are two tough skills to start your routine with, and hitting them is definitely a great way to start a solid set. Oh,
Hey, you all right, Jake? You all right, Jake? Bring it back.
may have jinxed him.
You know what to do, Sweden. Let's go, Ev.
Down at his hands, and it's always hard to tell if a gymnast got a rip or if it's just the mandatory thing to look down at your hands after you fall off of parallel bars.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't a rip, because that is one of the most painful things, to rip and then have to get back up and finish your routine. Does look to be struggling, so I wonder if he's dealing with some pain in his hand. But it's a difficult set so far, so he'll look to bring it back, tapped it off strong with a good dismount.
Nice recovery there for him.
Let's go, Wilkins. Hey, let's go to time. Let's go. Let's go, Wilkins. Let's go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, buddy. Let's go.
Beautiful zoom in from Evan.
Come on. Yeah.
flying double tuck. Gorgeous Kovacs.
That's just a massive Kovacs. Yeah, I mean that.
So much height on these release moves.
And a
And the
beautiful
Raptors
finish.
with that dismount. Tons of time to spot the landing and finds that stick.
I think William and Mary might be running away with it on high bar. They seem to have found their energy. They've found their groove, and nothing feels better than having a hit high bar squat. I mean that's one of the riskier routines. When you fall hard. So that's a great, so far a great showing from them.
All yours, Luke. Let's go.
Next up for Simpson, we have Alex Catchbull, who's hit as high as a 13.25 on the event. Definitely expect to see some more difficulty from him. Probably a great way to round up your lineup if you're Simpson. You can get a score like that on the board.
Hey, you know what to do, Luke.
Whip it or Hanma to open. Nicely done on the L sit there. I would like to see a little bit more attention to the feet. There's quite a flexed foot overall throughout the routine, and they can take a 10th deduction for every single skill there. So something I would just like to see improved on the line overall.
Yeah, I think we've seen that pretty consistently from Simpson. I remember that back on Pommel Horse as well. Just a little more attention to detail, and I'll bet they can make up a point or two in their overall score. Those flex toes, 1/10 doesn't seem like much until you have a couple of guys getting a couple of those each routine, and all of a sudden you're talking about 1, 2, even 3 points across a meet.
I know for Great Britain, if you're looking over at the elite side of things, they specifically worked on not walking their hands on parallel bars, and just by cleaning up that of it alone improved their team total by 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable how significant those little deductions can be. Great finish for William and Mary on high bar with Luke Tully. That's a solid hit set and a solid set of hits for their high bar lineup. Mike and Bo are going to be really happy with that for sure.
Looks like we've got our final routine going for rotation 5. Milo Staley, be an exhibition or an all-around athlete. This will not add to their team final total. In 2024, he earned the team's hardest worker and most improved award.
It's a good guy to have last up on your parallel bars lineup. I was saying earlier that a good routine, last up in the lineup, even if it's, or at least a hard-fought routine, even if it's not counting to your score, can really do wonders for setting the tone for the next event. So it's seeing a lot of that hard work right now. I mean, he's really fighting for each of these skills.
Yeah, one of the things that we often don't talk about a lot on parallel bars is the shoulder angle, and for him what we saw was a lot of closed shoulder angles, and the FIG, the International Federation of Gymnastics, has recently actually changed some of those requirements and how much credit you can get if you do have skills with closed angles. So that will be something he will be looking to improve upon later this year.
Finishing up
rotation 5, William and Mary have a really strong lead over Simpson. They're at a 257.750, on track to break that 300 mark. Simpson's at a 249.450. I think that they'll get close, but it's probably going to be really tight if they're going to be able to push that 300 mark, probably looking closer to like that 298, 299 mark.
Yeah, I mean, they can definitely score. If they score as high as they can get close to that 300 mark on high bar. If they have if their high bar squad has the meat of their life, it's going to be tough. They've yet to hit the mark that they would need on high bar. It looks like their highest high bar score is a 47.65 thus far. But I mean, if they can get close, then that's a big deal for them. So, another solid meet in the books. Finish the meet on a strong note, and figure out what you can improve for next meet.
So you're at the end of a meet. It's been going on a couple of hours. You're headed to the final event. How do you keep that momentum going, especially if you're just really tired or beat down, or maybe you're headed to not your favorite event?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the right person to ask, unfortunately. I only ever competed floor and ring, so I was done first half of the meet. I got to focus on just being as loud as I could be. If my voice wasn't gone by the end of the meet, I did something wrong. I know it's the toughest thing, I think, about a meet like this is when you have a guy like, for example, Will Harrington, who's up right now on parallel bars. So Will hasn't competed yet this meet. He's got to wait the entire meet just to get to the one event that he's going to specialize on, which is parallel bars. And he can really hit this routine. But when you've been iced the whole meet, I think the best you can do is stay warm, stay focused. You want to cheer a bit, you want to have that energy, just to keep it up for yourself and for the rest of your team. But trying not to exert yourself too much when you cheer, trying not to focus too much on anything except for what you're going to do on that last event. So it's a tough thing to go into your last event and have to compete, for sure. This is Sam Lee up on parallel bars warming up. Might see that difficult dismount. We'll see how he feels. It looks like we got some Tkachev taps being warmed up on high bar. Love to see a good Tkachev. Done cleanly, that's got to be one of my favorite high bar skills. Just looks so effortless when it's done well.
I think one of the best things and changes to this code of points is that we're now seeing more pig-ons on high bar, which is my personal favorite skill. Do you have a favorite skill on high bar as well?
Um, Favorite skill on high bar. Man, it's one of my favorite events overall. I was never good at it, like in the slightest, but man, is it a fun event to train and to compete, and to watch. I think a really well done way to catch a full is got to be just up there. I mean, you don't see them very often. Usually they're kind of like sideways or crooked, or they grab too close to the bar, but that's always been fun. I also grew up with watching Epke Zonderland from the Netherlands compete the Kovac series, and as a routine, that 2012 high bar final is probably my favorite. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that for sure.
And as someone who speaks Dutch fluently, we heard the correct pronunciation of Epke's name. I think oftentimes it gets anglicized to Epke, and I was admiring your accent. So for those of you who didn't know, Zane speaks fluent Dutch, and we're learning pronunciation things here.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Not a common name outside of the Netherlands, Epke, but that is the correct pronunciation, unfortunately. So William and Mary going into this final event, they can hit a 50 on parallel bars. In fact, they can beat that. They've hit as high as 51.3, and that would put them really solidly where they want to be. In terms of their score, I mean, that would be good for their second highest score of the season. In fact, if they could beat a 60, they'd be, or a 50 rather, they'd be good for their second highest score of the season, and that'll do wonders to increasing their national qualifying average, getting them one step closer to getting to NCAAs as a team for the first time since 2021.
Come out directly to LSIT, not something you see all that often.
No, it's not, but Zachary Patrick's got one of those parallel bar sets that you kind of do whatever he wants, and you get why he did it, because he is really strong on this event.
Ended up really having to fight through that Zapelt. Instead of having that fast turnover, had to push up into the handstand.
Great
Nice double
finish
flip dismount.
Probably not good for his highest score of as a 13.7, but definitely looking in that high 12, low 13 range, and great place to start for William and Mary. Great fight on that Kovacs. Came in a little close to the bar there, but, as long as you get over the bar on the giant after, it counts. Doesn't matter what that giant looks like. I've seen guys go over with only one hand on the bar and still counts for the skill. So, way to not come off the bar and to make that routine a hit one. Sam Lee up now. This is, you might see that full twisting double back dismount. But even if not, Sam's been just a power horse on parallel bars. Got some of the most impressive difficulty, some of the cleanest lines. Really great to see him back on the event this year for William & Mary. Listen, a couple of handstands there. Not super uncommon, especially if you haven't competed in a while. You get a little extra energy and you overshoot that handstand, but he seems to be cleaning it up as the routine goes on. This is dismount. Oh, and he hits it.
Well, I hope this was okay. Yeah, looks fine.
Yeah.
Wow. So just from that one skill alone, he has 1.6 points.
I mean, that's with a fall. That's the same as doing a double back.
1.4, right? G is 7.
Yeah. So, like, if you land that dismount, you are so far ahead of anyone else in difficulty. It's just insane. It's worth doing even with the difficulty or with the fall being, much more likely than if he does a double pike, say.
And German giant works that just sort of make your shoulders creak a little bit when you're watching them.
Another fun thing I've enjoyed seeing since in the recent code changes is that I was a little close to the bar, but he pulls around. But those the piked in-bar skills are fun. Yeah, I almost my heart sunk through the floor there for a second, but you know what? With it, you don't ask how. Yeah, so 12.65 for Sam Lee on parallel bars, and that's where we're seeing that, even with the fall, that dismount just adds so much value to the routine. So, and if he's able to land that, then that's a huge score for William & Mary in their parallel bars lineup. Now we got Evan Wilkins, who's struggled a little bit with the consistency on P-bars, hit a couple of low scores his last two meets, but can definitely hit when he needs to. He'll be looking to replicate success early in the season with some low to mid-13s, and that'll probably do it for him. Great routine from Evan.
And the entire time through Evan's routine, we could hear Simpson yelling for Milo, so I'm expecting big things from this routine.
Yeah, you don't really get heckling in this sport, but what you do get is cheering for your team through other teams' routines, and that's something pretty much every team does. And it's just a good way to focus on your upcoming set, especially when you have those long pauses. We've seen some delayed judging that is difficult for the guy who's about to go up. So I think they're trying to offset that.
Oh, gets the stick.
Worth the wait.
And they have a flag. Oh my, that's incredible.
I'm glad we got to see that. That's a fun thing to do for sure.
So we saw Mark Fu on still rings, and I was completely and totally impressed by his line, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do here on parallel bars.
So Mark Fu will be their last counting score. Once he finishes his routine, gets his score, we'll know William and Mary's final score. Luke Tully will compete after that for his all-around score. But William and Mary definitely in a place to take it, take the meet. So, and hopefully get above that 306 that they need to really add to their national qualifying score for the year.
Come on, Jake. Come on, Jake. Working here, Jake. Come on, Jake. Let's go, Jake. Let's go, Jake. Hey, let's go, Jake. Come on, Jake.
Look at that handstand. Just gorgeous. Oh, Makoots. Oh, he is now allowed to be in the two categories of Lucas Dowser and Mark Fu. Two people allowed to do Makoots.
That was a gorgeously done Makoots. I mean, the zero pause, just like it's supposed to be done. Not something that you really necessarily know, even as a gymnast, that you're supposed to not pause in that handstand for that Makoots. But wow, does he just hit that routine. Great way to finish for William and Mary. Now you just got to keep that energy up as Luke Tully does his final set. Now, if Jake Smith can really hit this routine, oh, wow, that was a high to Tkachev.
And a close to Tkachev.
Yeah. Glad he's all right on that. That was it's always scary coming a little too close on Tkachev, but. You love to hear the cheers from Simpson. It can be tough after your teammate goes up and starts the routine in a way that you're not looking for, and then to keep up that energy is really it's really important. I mean, when you fall, you really need your team there behind you. They do a really good job of that. Huge 13.5 for Mark Fu. I mean, putting them at 309, that's a That's exactly where they want to be.
A score higher than their 3-score average, which is currently a 306.7.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big score, given that the average is the top 3 scores. Right now they're counting 300. Huge routine for Luke. Gotta love the celebration. Sticky feet.
He was absolutely making sure the judges did not miss the fact that he stuck the dismount.
We got one more routine from Alex Campbell competing for that all-around score.
Yeah, and Simpson's going to finish out with a 295.150. Again, quite a bit higher than their 3-score average of a 292.1. Not quite as high as their high score of 297.75.
Yeah, for sure. I will say it's a huge improvement on their score, their most recent score, where they got a 285. They're right back up with close to their high score at a 297, which when you kind of fall down, when you do you have a really great meet, they're 297, come back and you have a rough one. It's so important to come back strong, and I think for them that 295 shows that they're really closer to that 300 range than they are than maybe their last meet would lead you believe. I could see them hitting that before the end of the season for sure.
As we're closing out here, we'll soon get the final summary of who is going to win all of the different events. Of course, William & Mary is going to be taking home that team title. And soon we'll find out. Jake Smith of Simpson is taking the floor title with a 13.5, followed by 2 William & Mary gymnasts Luke Tully and Evan Wilkins. For Pommel Horse, also Simpson, Alex Catchpole taking it with a 12.7, followed by Jared Neumann and Gavin Zabrowski of William & Mary. Nico Greenlee is leading as with Evan Wilkins, as it is a William & Mary swept podium for still rings. Sam Lee leads the way on vault, tied with Braxton Jones of Simpson, and Luke Tully rounds out the podium in third. Mark Fu took that parallel bar title with his gorgeous lines. Alex Catchpole of Simpson took the silver, and Evan Wilkins rounds out the podium in third. For high bar, Evan Wilkins was king with a 13.1, and William & Mary swept the podium once more. Luke Tully of William & Mary won the all-around title with a 76.2. Alex Campbell will take silver with a 73.2, and Milo Staley will round out the podium with a 71.750. It looks like they were the only 3 athletes to compete in the all-around tonight.
That 76 is huge for Luke Tully. I mean, that's much higher than his previous scores and really good for him.
We are Kensley Behel and Zane Petras, and we are logging off for Virtius.
Thanks, everyone.